All right, professional Scrum trainers, Ryan Ripley and Todd Miller back at you with another Your Daily Scrum, the daily podcast and YouTube channel show that hopefully helps you, the Scrum Master, or your Scrum teams, do a little bit better today. And so, Todd, we had another question come in. This one happened during one of our PSM courses, our professional Scrum Master courses. We get this question a lot. What is the right sprint length?
Mm-hmm. I always love these questions because you see, what is the right sprint length, right? And there really isn't ever a right for everything, right? Is there?
You know, the Scrum is a framework. We talk about that a lot, and there's very few pieces that that are clearly defined, and the rest is really for teams to discover and learn.
Mm-hmm.
But let's help out here. We can, we could say it depends and hit the end record, but let's go a little deeper, right? First of all, I want to point the viewers here. There is a video in our YouTube channel called "What is a Sprint?" That could be helpful. So if you're new to Scrum and you're trying to figure all this out, maybe watching "What is a Sprint" could be helpful after this. We'll make sure there's a link at the end. But let's start with the Scrum Guide, Todd. Let's start with what we know to be true. And so let's go there. So sprints are the heartbeat of Scrum. So where ideas are turned into value. They are fixed length events of 1 month or less to create consistency.
Mm-hmm.
So we can pull from this a little bit. They're fixed length events of 1 month or less.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to create consistency. So when we pick a sprint length, what I'm learning here is from the Scrum Guide directly is we want to be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're trying to pick a length that we could do indefinitely. It's kind of that sprinting indefinitely, that sustainable pace. That's what I'm pulling from there, along with we're not to exceed a month. What do you see here?
Yeah, so I'm seeing the same thing you're seeing with that word consistency, because I have been in circumstances where I've been a Scrum Master and the sprint length has changed, and it is quite disruptive to a team. We changed it because of results of a retrospective in this one circumstance I'm thinking of, and shortened it. And we're going to get into some reasons why you might shorten a sprint length here in a bit.
You know, something else that I'm seeing here, Todd, is this idea that it's a heartbeat. So this is a cadence, right? This is setting the tone, setting the pace for our work. And so there's things to think about with heartbeats, right? If we have this longer horizon, if it's too long, the sprint goal may become invalid, complexity may rise, and risk may increase. So again, this is right from the Scrum Guide that's telling us about the dangers of having too long of a sprint, right? Our sprint goal could be in jeopardy. Complexity may rise, risk may increase. You know, those are certainly things we want to avoid.
Yeah, and remembering this word complexity in here, right? We learn about doing the work when we're doing the work. So as the work emerges, we learn some things, and as we learn things, maybe the sprint goal becomes invalid because it's too long of a time horizon, right? Or
right.
I don't know. I just think of complex work, right? We don't know what we don't know in the complex domain of work, so we learn by doing. And when you're learning by doing, if you don't give opportunities to inspect and have conversations because of a longer time horizon, risk rises, right?
Well, and I think that's why the Scrum Guide nudges teams towards shorter sprints, right?
Mm-hmm.
So shorter sprints can be employed to generate more learning cycles and limit risk of cost and effort to a smaller time frame. I think that's, all of the things that you just said there, Todd. I think this is why the Scrum Guide pushes the idea towards shorter sprints and tries to give that guidance really cleanly.
Yeah, and immediately where my brain is going here, right, is the accountability of a product owner, right? The accountability of a product owner is to maximize value, and a shorter sprint actually limits risk. It limits risk that you're going too far away from your stakeholders without getting any feedback, right? And if you want to limit risk, have a shorter sprint length. Right? And it also says cost here too. Product owner, I think immediately accountability. I think about cost, right? So risk and cost is something that kind of falls in your court as a product owner. Speaking to specifically to product owners, but yeah, I keep thinking that. What do you think about that, Ryan?
I think it comes down to the Scrum value of focus, Todd. I think this is one of those areas where as a Scrum team, and perhaps pull some stakeholders into this conversation as well. I'm not sure it's just the Scrum team that decides this, but how long can the team stay focused on a problem, right? How volatile is the marketplace, right? How long is too long to go without feedback from our customers? What's the risk? What's the cost? What are we jeopardizing by going too long? Is it risky to go too short, right? What if we can't do anything meaningful in a week or in 2 weeks? And so these are the questions we're doing. The bottom line here for me, Todd, is that this is a planning horizon. There's no right or wrong sprint length, right? Just because there's some blog post on the internet that says 2 weeks is the right length, you can ignore that, everybody. Look, this is a planning horizon. We're trying to create focus. We want teams to be able to deliver. And those are the considerations that we would have. So sit down with your teams, figure out what that heartbeat, what that cadence could be. Give it a shot, try some things out, but land on one that you can be consistent with, right? We're trying to build that consistency, that heartbeat, that cadence, and go forth and do good things.
Good. Yeah.
All right, this is another Your Daily Scrum. We hope it helps. Send us your questions. Ryan at agileforhumans.com, Todd at agileforhumans.com. Send your questions in. Let us know what you're struggling with Scrum, and you might see your question on a future episode.
We like hard questions, right? Send us the hard ones.
All right. That's another episode. Have a great day, everybody.